is Pablo Uranga, and
Hey guys, I'm Sabrina.
so what are we going to talk about?
Probably some art.
Art. We want to talk about the artist first. So people want to know, who are you?
Well, a little bit about myself is I went to an arts high school and I had these amazing teachers and I got to work in a whole bunch of different fields. So I had graphic design, we had pottery classes, photography classes, painting, drawing, like the whole spectrum. So I got to dip my feet in like a little bit of everything. And then what I really fell in love with, which was really surprising, was painting, because I actually did not like it at first, and my teacher told me, you're actually a lot better at this than you think. Painting is just more terrifying than you realize, and then you figure out how it works, and you can dive into it and really play with the textures and the colors and really build it up in a really hands-on way, which I was really attracted to. So I was actually thinking about going to college for interior design, but I fell in love with painting so much, my teacher convinced me, you should definitely major in painting. So I applied to different colleges and got a full ride to Kendall College of Art and Design. So I landed there in the fall of 2012. And so I started off there with one of my best friends, which was super fun. And that school was absolutely phenomenal. It taught me how to paint traditionally. It taught me how to paint conceptually. It got my feet in like my first galleries and out in the community doing projects with nonprofits and teaching at different local schools, and just a little bit of everything that you could ever imagine in the world of painting and building yourself a career with a strong portfolio to step your best foot forward. And it was really fun in the process because we applied to a lot of art competitions, and me and my best friend are really competitive, and we would always like win first or second place, and it was either him or me or him and me, and we kept going back and forth, so we were always like pushing each other forward, and it was definitely a really fun process.
Like a healthy competitive spirit.
Yeah, because we were best friends, but we also really picked on each other, so we could really like be honest with each other, even when it hurt. And so that led me into opening my own studio and becoming a freelance artist, applying to different art competitions, different galleries, and I have been really, really fortunate to be able to place top tier in a lot of those competitions. And there was definitely like some pretty cool trips that came out of that and really good opportunities. So really grateful to be where I am today.
That's awesome. So before applying to college, you said you started painting in high school. So you didn't have any experience with paint before high school? Like that was like you dipping in your toes in the water and you were like, I actually like this, I'm good at it. Or did you have any kind of background in that kind of world before?
I had no background in that world, so basically, a long story short is I have a ton of sisters. There's 9 of us.
That's
and like my parents would like kind of like, this is Kaylin, she's the artist. This is Sabrina, she's the piano player, and like tag us in all these like little categories that we did. So I never thought like of myself as an artist. I always thought of my sister as the artist. But I just really liked Extreme Home Makeover with Ty Pennington.
Classic.
And I wanted to be able to do that and be able to do interior design that gave back into the community, and that was like a blessing in paying it forward. So that's actually why I decided I wanted to take every single art class, because I wanted to like dip my feet into it and like see where I landed with that. And like through the process, through the process I realized like how much I really enjoyed it, and honestly I wouldn't be where I am today without my teachers, because my teachers were phenomenal. Like they knew exactly like which direction to push us and how to get us to develop our own voice and style, and I literally just had the best teachers, and I was willing to listen and learn, and we just did life together.
So you say you were looking into design before you jumped into painting. Were you looking at schools for like interior design and remodeling, or you knew that you wanted to go to a traditional painting school when you were 18?
When I was applying, I wasn't sure what major I wanted to do, but I was leaning towards interior design. And so one of the institutes I was looking at was Harrington School of Interior Design in Chicago. So I went to visit them, and kind of through that process realized that actually wasn't the direction that I wanted to go, and really like stuck full force with painting to discover that my major was teeny tiny. Everyone was scared of painting.
Interesting.
When we entered in, like first day in orientation, like you see like photography and graphic design and fashion design, like they have tens of hundreds students like within their class starting off. My class had 6 people.
6?
And when we actually graduated, there was only 2 of us who actually finished through.
Stuck through.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy. 6 and you end up with 2, which a lot of people don't know that, but it was you and your best friend.
My best friend.
Both
we scared off everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. So it's your guys' fault. So, what do you think is that? Why is it easier for people to go into photography or graphic design, but not painting or drawing?
I think there's a lot of unknown with painting because there's such a refined skill behind it, and a lot between mixing mediums and creating layers and all the depth that goes behind it. It really freaks people out. And for example, when you sit down with a pen and paper, like drawing comes very naturally, and a lot of majors are like revolved around that because people feel more comfortable with that. And painting is definitely more like on the unknown side.
Okay.
And so I think it actually like tangibly scares a lot more people off. Or perhaps the fact they're not educated in the realm of like career-wise, like, oh, if I go to school for painting, what job am I gonna pursue with that? Perhaps I think like photography, they have like a safer, like wide zone for landing jobs, where painting is definitely more refined in the job area and also in the skill area as well, for like the tangible, like mixing paints, creating mediums, adding layers, like the whole mix of that. I think it kind of scares a lot of people. At least that's what I heard from all the painting classes that I was a part of. It just freaked a lot of people out, and they'd rather be in a drawing class because it just comes more naturally. But in reality, if you know how to draw, you know how to paint. You just have to figure out how to add the color to it.
Interesting. So, going off of that, in your experience of what you've seen at school, do you think painting is something that can be taught, something that you can teach to someone, or someone with basic skills, or someone who's willing to put the effort? Is it something that anybody can learn, or is it something that definitely you have to have a passion and kind of born with some have a talent?
I think it's a little bit of all of that. I think number one, painting is 100% teachable. I'm an art teacher, that's what I do for a living, and it is 100% teachable. I think the only thing that's added to that is if you just have natural talent. So for example, like me and my best friend who went to art school together, he is naturally very talented, and honestly, if I'm speaking clear and frank, I am not like as naturally talented when it comes to painting. So he would just spend like a couple hours last minute and whip out like a gorgeous, beautiful masterpiece. And I would get so mad because I would spend like weeks on it. I would take a lot of time on mine, and it just took me longer, and it takes me longer to create things, and I had to really push myself forward because I have the vision and I have the passion, but it took me longer to like push through things and learn things. But I think the biggest thing is, if you're interested in painting in general, is just coming with the passion and the persistence, because it is 100% teachable. That's why I literally said like I am where I am today, because I had killer teachers. You have to teach it in a right way where you develop your own style and your own voice. You're not just trying to mimic what your teacher's doing. They have their own unique paintings and style and concepts they're portraying. So when you have a fantastic teacher like pushing you through, it is 100% teachable if you come in with a growth mindset, ready to like put in your own personal voice.
That sounds like in the music world, like when they teach you how to sing, you have a coach, a teacher that tells you, hey, these are the basic tools that you need. This is how you use your voice. This is how you use your diaphragm. This is how you use your chest, your head voice. But at the end of the day, the main thing that they want you to do is like, I don't want you to copy me. I don't want you to copy this singer, because everyone has their own voice. They want you to find your voice. So it kind of sounds like about the same. Like you need someone to guide you, walk you through this process. But the main goal is to find your own style, who you are as a painter or a drawer or whatever. Is that right? Or is it, or you just follow a style of painting?
The best way to do it, and the way that I was taught, is actually, so what we call it is a master copy.
Okay.
So you go back through art history and you find different paintings from the masters. So it could be Da Vinci, it could be Raphael, it could be someone more modern, like someone well established in the art world. And what you would do is you would copy their painting, not to sell, not to produce money, just to learn the skills of what they had to do to make it. And you do that over and over again each week. So my best professors, they would actually have me, the first week, I would do a master copy, and I would do like a drawing or painting and replicate one of the works that have already been produced. And then the next week, I had to recreate it in my own style, like my own version of it. And we did that over and over again. And actually what that does is it gives you tools in your tool belt. Even if you don't like every style, it gives you different tools of, okay, I like the texture from this one, I like the colors from this one, I like the composition from this one. And you slowly start putting it together to refine your personal voice of how you want to portray things and what you want to say with your work. So honestly, that is one of the best ways my teachers really equipped me, is just taking like little hints of things that have already been established, learning those skills, learning those tools, whether it's a really realistic painting or a really abstract painting or really like high expression painting. So you have all these little mixes that if you have different clients coming to you for different styles, you can go ahead and like say, yeah, I can do that super realistic portrait painting, or I can do like a really dreamy abstract landscape painting, and all of those tie together to develop your own personal style, because you're remixing it and finding the parts that you like about it and like pulling that into your own work.
I can see how people can feel scared, because like everything that you're saying right now is like, oh man, that sounds like, oh. But like you just explain it, like it's actually easier than people think. So we see this amount of people going to art school, and you see the painting is like, it's a fewer amount of people going there. And I guess one of the questions that people have been asking in the past years is that, is art dying? Is the art world dying?
Is the art world dying? I think that's a really big question.
Yeah, I know.
So,
especially because art is so subjective.
I would say, from my perspective and my personal experience, I don't think art is dying. I think it's alive and thriving. What I think is really changing is, for example, let's go back to art history, like the old masters. You have Michelangelo, Raphael, Caravaggio. They thrived in their skill to produce realism, to make a painting look like it was larger to life, to make David look like he was like living, breathing stone. That is the skill that they refined their whole life and they dove into. And as art has transformed over time, it has gone away from like the traditional creating perspective to the other spectrum, which is conceptual. So
Okay.
before, art was made for more beauty and for storytelling, and as time has developed and the black square was introduced and abstracts, arts, and the whole spectrum and non-subjective, that really questioned what is art and what is the purpose of art. And you see a lot of really conceptual art with Duchamp's fountain, to nowadays a lot of people are focusing on what is the concept and how am I gonna say that.
Yeah.
So it's okay if it's just scratched on chalk on the big wall in the gallery, because the point they're trying to get across is the concept and the thought-provoking thought that they have behind it. So what you're seeing is less painterly masterpieces like you did in Michelangelo's time, because art has refined past that. But as an artist, I would like to see a balance between the two.
Yeah.
Because the sake of making something just because it's beautiful, like yes, there's a lot of skill into that and there's a lot of talent, but it's really important to what your artwork is and what the meaning behind it is. But also, I do believe on the other spectrum, which I don't really know the best way to put this, I think art has also lost a lot of excellence.
Definitely.
With
I agree with
the way I'm trying to figure out how the best way to put it. I think art has lost a lot of excellence in the way that there's so many resources out there that people get like overstimulated, and like everyone just wants everything so simple and refined. But there's something really beautiful behind like the old masterpieces and their attention to detail. So I guess my heart is to see like a mix between the both,
Yeah.
where you're coming with talent and with skill and with a strong idea that questions your audience, that gets your audience thinking,
Yeah.
without losing like the craft behind it too, and like the excellence behind it.
Yeah, what I've seen, like if you go to all the new like modern museums of art, your local one, your state or your city, I think the main focus right now is to provoke or create a reaction in the viewer, more than the style itself or the painting or what's printed on that canvas. Is more like, how can I provoke something? So this is my opinion. I feel like people are leaning more towards that. How can I create a reaction? And I agree with you. I feel like we're losing a little bit of that, the perfection behind it, the attention to detail, the skill of like being able to portray a human hand, human eye,
and spending years working on it.
Yeah. Now it's like, how can I create something powerful, meaningful, but I'm gonna make it quick? And there's a lot of freedom nowadays because everything is subjective. Everything can be abstract because I can put a bunch of things together and this is my truth, this is what it means to me. And if you put a good story behind the meaning of this painting, you have a higher chance of that artwork standing out. That's what I've noticed. I don't know. That's my experience. I feel like people are, kind of going a little bit away of that, the perfection, perfecting their technique, spending hours in the studio. Like back then, I remember you told me like, the only way that you could get better is like go and paint the sunset and then go back to the same spot the next day and the day after and the day after. And the amazing thing is like, even though they went back to the same spot to paint the same sunset, the lighting was different, shadow was different, clouds were different, but you had to be good to remember what it looked like, you know? And I feel like nowadays it's a little bit easier. People don't want to do that. And now with technology, you just take a picture and like you go back to your studio and you have that to rely on, you know?
Yeah, it just blows my mind thinking about the old masters who worked on different subjects and images. If it's inside, you have a lot more control over like the lighting and your subjects staying in place. But like the old masters who are doing landscapes, oh my goodness, that gets me every time because I'm like, how long did that take you, and how detailed were their sketches have to be to work from your sketch, but also to be out there working in the elements to create it and not having it like awkward, like this started the painting, like the sun was going down, and this one, it was going down too much, like to have it fluctuate, and just, oh my goodness, it's absolutely amazing the way they work from the systems they had in place, and that they also started being apprentices at such a young age.
Yeah, they were so young.
It was their life skill.
Definitely, if they saw you were a talented kid at age 6, 8, 9, 10, you had sponsors of people taking you to school, like, okay, we believe in you, we believe in this gift that you have, and we don't want to waste it. There was such a respect, and it was such an honor to be an artist back then. It wasn't just like another profession. It was like, this is something special, this is something that we want to really invest our time and money, because I feel like this guy is going to give something back to society, something that is going to last through generations. And me as a sponsor, I want to be part of it. You know, we see it in Italy with the Medici family, like they were involved in so many things, good and bad ones, but some of the things is like, you know what, if we find good artists, I want to be part of that. I want to be able to help this kid go to the next level, you know. And yeah, it was very different back then. But something really interesting and that I really appreciate is you have Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and all these big guys, Botticelli, Donatello, and the beauty of art is like it's forgiven in a way that you can see, even though they were talented, you can see some of their first artwork and see like mistakes and things that are maybe not perfect, and it kind of makes you think like, wow, you can see the evolution of how they started, how they ended, and also see that human side that, like, even though Michelangelo, I don't know how he worked marble. Probably it was magic tricks or whatever. It doesn't seem humanly possible what he did with marble. Was amazing. But if you go when we went to the Sistine Chapel, we could see some mistakes that he made, and he realized like, oh, I made mistakes. So I'm gonna change. When he painted the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel, was like, I started too small here, and this doesn't look good from below, but it's a fresco. It's already dry. I'm gonna leave it the way it is. But now, going from the middle to the end, he improved his technique, and you can see an evolution through his lifetime.
The wild thing about the Sistine Chapel is that it was his first painting.
Yeah.
His first painting! And that is just a wild task for your first painting. That's a big project to work on.
The church and the Pope saying, hey, I need you to paint. I'm not asking you, I want you to paint.
Number one, he was so young. It was his first painting. And yeah, he did make mistakes along the way because he's right there painting, so the faces were way too small. And then he stepped down and he's like, oh my goodness, they're way too tiny up there. Yeah. So keep it growing as it went along. And the really interesting thing is when you see Michelangelo's sculptures in person, is they kept a lot of his mistake sculptures too. From the Slave series. They had all of those blocks of ones that, it was really interesting because I'm not a sculptor, I'm a painting, but he only got so far on each block and then realized it's ruined and had to get another block of marble. Yeah,
there's no way to erase it. Or
it's so expensive. Wild. I don't even know what's the turnaround time to get another big chunk of marble. And some of them were only worth ever so slightly, and he knows like, oh, there's no going back, it's ruined. So just to see his process and the way his brain worked is just really intriguing. And also with Da Vinci, he only has a few finished paintings. A lot of his paintings are unfinished because
he had his hands on so many things.
He had his hands on so many things. He was here, there, and there. I think he only has like 16 actually finished paintings. So for example, like if you go to the, where was it, the Uffizi Gallery?
Uffizi.
They had 3 of his works, and one of them was unfinished, which is actually really interesting to see because if you go to a gallery nowadays, they're not displaying work that's unfinished. Yeah. It's important to have work that is finished, but the beauty about seeing his work unfinished is you can see the layers that he was building upon.
The technique.
And that just like makes my artist brain so happy and complete, being able to see the underpainting which was wild because just even like with the burnt sienna, he's so detailed, just blocking in people. Like he was wildly skilled and talented. But it was just really intriguing to see his work unfinished and the layers underneath and how it was being sculpted out.
Yeah, and a side note, like a lot of people, when you say painters, automatically they're gonna say Da Vinci, Michelangelo. And it's just their names have been ingrained throughout history, and they deserve it. But I don't think people know that they were not painters. If you could travel back in time and talk to Da Vinci and ask him, "What are you?" "I'm an inventor."
Yeah.
He was an explorer. He was an inventor.
Scientist.
And science was his thing.
Yeah.
That's what he just loved the arts. He just loved anything that was creative. That was his brain was trying to solve things, do new things, but he wouldn't call himself a painter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to Michelangelo. "What are you?" "Not a painter. I'm a sculptor, architect, and poet." He would call himself a poet before calling himself a painter, which is crazy.
He had a lot of dramatic letters.
Yeah. So yeah, and then you have great guys at that time like Bernini. Then a few years, 100 years later, you have amazing guys like Bernini, and you have Raphael, and it's like, man, these guys are amazing. But I love seeing the process of how they started and then how good they became. And then we jump in the future, and then we start seeing this revolution in the arts, and I don't know, which I hate this word, disruptors, but going away from romanticism and classic paintings, who would you say was the first person to really revolutionize traditional painting?
The first one to revolutionize it would be the black square. So
Okay.
originally it was, forgive me if these dates are wrong, I think it was 1912.
Okay.
I'll have to look that up. But they painted just a black square on the canvas and then just like a border around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they contribute that as like the first like subjectless painting. But a lot of critics said, no, it does have a subject, it's a black square. And so he went in and recreated it untitled. So then there is no subject. So
Okay.
there's a lot of controversy around
That's
it.
cool.
There's a lot of debate around it
Okay.
because you had Cubism coming out, you had the
Mhm.
black square coming out, and so the race to conceptualism and what is next
Yeah.
and having something contentless. So originally he named it the black square, hoping to like portray that point.
Yeah.
But critics just destroyed it and tore it apart. So then he renamed it Untitled. So there was no subject. And that is the starting point for all of them. Like right after that you see Duchamp make his fountain piece, which is just a urinal turned upside down with a little inscription on it. And just all of these artworks that really go 100% towards the conceptual side and the idea behind it. You had the artists who put poo in a can and put it in the gallery. So these really big statements that are being produced, that is nothing in the realm of fine arts in the regards of traditional paint and brush on a canvas.
Yeah, I would say like people don't realize how drastic and how rapidly has artwork developed in the last 100 years. 130. Like during that time you have pop art, postmodernism, you have Pablo Picasso coming up from his traditional blue and pink era to Cubism. And then you have Dali with his craziness and melting clocks, and Warhol, like
people who are actually famous in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the old masters, they weren't really as recognized.
Yeah.
And a lot of like paintings that we really cherish today and really like hold high status to, a lot of those artists never received like anyone looking up to them, any fame or fortune.
No.
A lot of them, that's where you get a lot of the like starving artist commentary from. But then in the last 100 years, you get a lot of the like famous celebrity artists, like high status, high ticket prices, and it's really, really revolutionized the theory of an artist in general.
Yeah, it's what I guess the Black Square really revolutioned the industry, but I think going from like the Catholic Church ordering all these artists to paint artwork to then having in-home portraits, the French royalty having their own paintings of the castles, the royalty. It was like there wasn't a lot of branches. It was kind of just a few options, and that's it. And it was really traditional, kind of in a way.
Well, you would get commission.
Yeah.
That's how you got your money out of it. You wouldn't paint really what you would want for the most part.
Yeah, for me, I think Monet was one of the first ones to revolutionize. It was different. Definitely, there were people doing different things, but somebody that did something different and kind of stuck and got the attention right away was Monet. Yeah. And yeah, people can argue Van Gogh, but he wasn't famous. His artwork was hated at the time. Yeah. And also, it's not that long ago. When you say Van Gogh, there's people that really think of Van Gogh in the 1700s or early 1800s. It was late 1800s, almost 1900. Like, Van Gogh was alive when the Eiffel Tower was being built. So he kind of got a glimpse of that last era when painters started to become famous. So I think, but he wasn't relevant in his time. And he only sold one painting when he was alive. Yeah. And so I think Monet, to me, in my opinion, is the one who created the first impact. Like, let's do something different. And people were like, what are you doing? But okay, I kind of like what you're doing.
A lot of the Impressionists, like in the French salons, they were rejected, and so they started like their own academy and their own group. And so I think a lot of artists who get rejected from the salon, like, they're the ones who are like, oh, you're going in the right direction because it's something new and different. It's uncomfortable. Yeah. And so those are the ones that were breaking tradition and creating something new.
Yeah. But I feel like now we're going backwards. Now art schools and all the modern artists, they want something cool, unique, different against the current. That we're losing, again, going back to the beginning of our conversation, we're losing that perfection, the beauty of being able to portray something the way it is.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of mix in our culture because there's a lot of like crafts mixed in our culture too. So trying to figure out like the balance between high art and low art and which art like has meaning and which art has relevance. There's a lot going on, and especially with social media. Yeah. There's a lot of outlets and revues with that, and arts that are blowing up on social media, crafts that are blowing up in social media compared to arts that are being portrayed in your local galleries or your local museum of modern art.
Okay, so just to wrap it up, if you could talk, there's a bunch of people right now, 17-year-olds, 16-year-old, 18 years old, they're maybe thinking about going into art school, or they don't know if it's worth it, or they're afraid of going into art, to the art college or art school. What would you tell to those 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-olds that want to jump into the art world but are holding back or uncertain or unsure?
I would say the biggest thing, when I went to art school, I saw a lot of people drop out in the process. So seeing that and seeing their thoughts and their artwork and their lifestyle, I would say honestly, it's cheesy, but there's a lot of truth behind it. The biggest thing that you need is, I would say, passion. To be excited to learn, to be excited to develop your voice, and to be ready to get constructive criticism. One of the major things about art is sitting down with your peers. Hey, what's working? What's not working? What do we need to improve on? And something I see time and time again are people who can't handle criticism. Yeah. And they would get personally offended and personally attacked, when in reality, the way that you have to look at it is, these are different people viewing your artwork. They may not see it the same way that you do, and not every single point people make you have to take, but you have to be able to decipher, okay, the hand's not working in this painting. I thought it was, but everyone's saying it looks like a hot dog. Like it looks really awkward. I need to rework that. Instead of getting really offended, well, I spent hours on that, like they don't understand, like you have to have a willingness to be able to receive constructive criticism. That is super big. Saw so many people like get in fights with professors where they're not attacking you, they're just saying, hey, like this area needs a little more refined, like this part you're doing great at, like, or what if we pull this in a different direction? Being able to like flow with that and be able to join that conversation in a healthy, constructive way is huge in our world. And honestly, the other thing, like I said, super cheesy, but it's 100% true, is passion and being able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like push yourself forward, like
discipline?
Yes, discipline. Because a lot of things like in the art world, like there's not like a cookie cutter like job. Like there's a lot of things that you just have to be persistent at and like keep developing your portfolio, keep developing more paintings. So I would say the biggest thing is being able to handle constructive criticism, coming in like with passion, like this is what you want to do, not like I couldn't really think of anything else I wanted to do for college, so I thought this was a great idea. Like, no, that's not gonna work, there's too much competition out there. And just being able to really like regulate yourself and like create your own schedule and like keep to it, because there's just a lot of behind the scenes that like you have to push yourself forward and make it happen and apply to those galleries and apply to the art internships and all the different things that are available out there. But it's a really exciting world. There's a lot of unseen potential and a lot of misunderstanding that like kind of turns into fear sometimes. But painting is a really beautiful process, and you get your hands wet and messy and into the studio, and there's a lot that can be done with it and go in any direction, and it's really exciting.
That's awesome. Oh, good talk. The kids, go to art school. It's worth it. Have fun. Art is always changing, so you may be the new disruptor, even though I hate that word. But you might be the new style, the new thing. So, yeah, thank you for listening to us.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
Say bye, Milo.
Bye. See you guys.